Record on this. Okay, I think it's recording. Perfect. So if you don't mind, we can just start off. If you don't mind giving your name and age and introducing yourself.
My name is Carolyn McGee, and I'm 80 years old. And what else do you need to-
Okay, perfect. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Wake County, just north of Raleigh, between Raleigh and Rolesville, and just off 401 on Ligon Mill Road. Now it's a very busy road, but it was a dirt road at that time, and there were just a few houses on the road.
Awesome. And what are some of your favorite hobbies right now?
I like to read. I like to browse on the computer, play computer games sometimes. And I like to visit with my family.
Okay, awesome. All right, now I'm going to ask you some questions about what it was like growing up. So, what were the demographics of your high school like? Did you attend a segregated high school or was it integrated?
Yes, it was segregated because I graduated in 1959 and the schools all around were segregated. There were people that I knew just right across the field from me, and they got on a different school bus to go to a different school.
Okay, perfect. And how many siblings did you have?
There were 4 of us, so I had 1 brother and 2 sisters.
Okay. And did all of your siblings attend college or just some of them?
I was the only one to attend college.
Okay, perfect. And did you grow up on a farm?
I did grow up on a farm, a tobacco farm, and we raised tobacco, corn, cotton. We had a few animals, mostly pigs and cows, and we had a mule.
Okay.
So let's see what else. Oh, we had ducks on the pond. We had a couple of ducks, and at one time we had rabbits in a cage, and sometimes we'd take those rabbits out and let them jump around on them.
And did your family use this as a source of income or was it more just for fun? Kind of.
No, we definitely, it was our sole income was the farm and the products from the farm, especially tobacco. It was a big cash crop when I was growing up.
Okay, and what were your chores on the farm?
Oh, I had to help with the tobacco. It started early in the spring. Well, in the spring early, we had to pull the weeds from the plant bed where it was a huge area where the tobacco plants were growing. My dad sowed those seeds, and then the tobacco plants grew up. So we had to first pull the weeds out. Then as the plants got bigger, about May, we started planting that in the field. And at first we had to do that by hand with what we call a transplanter. But by the time I was in high school, we got a planter that was hooked behind the tractor. And so we rode on the planter and planted the fields that way. We also had to hoe the tobacco and the cotton and the plants in the garden, in our garden. We had to pull the suckers, these little things that were on the tobacco that would suck the weight out of the tobacco. So we had to top the tobacco, get the blooms off and pull those suckers off. And then when we started barning, the tobacco. It was really hard. Daddy had to hire some help to help, and we had to string it on a stick, a tobacco stick. Uh, the men were in the field, and they would pull the leaves off this tobacco, and then we would bring it to the barn, and we would tie it, well, hand it to the person who was tying it on the stick. Then we had to put it in the barn to cure, or cook, so to speak, and then in about a week we had to take it out of the barn and take it to the strip room, where we had to take it off the stick, and the leaves had turned golden color by then, and so we had to prepare those leaves to be able to put it on. Anyway, we had to put it back on the stick, and my dad had to take it to the market. And we kids didn't do a lot of picking cotton, because it happened while we were busy with the tobacco. So he usually hired people to pick cotton, and we wouldn't have been any good at it anyway. So, because we could pick as fast as those folks did.
Right. Okay. Well, awesome. So shifting back into career, as a school teacher, I know that you experienced the shift from segregated schools to integrated schools in your county. And do you mind sharing a little bit about what that experience was like for the students and teachers at the time?
All right. When I started teaching in 1963, I guess, and when I first started teaching, I started in a school that was kindergarten through 12th grade. And then the second year I taught there, and that was in Knightdale, North Carolina. You're still near Raleigh. And so when I was teaching, the first year I taught, I taught, there were no black students at our school. Well, the second year I taught, we had 2 students, and one was in my class in 6th grade, and one was in 2nd grade, and they were Moses, who was in my class, was a very smart young man, and he fit right in because he could play baseball. And so when the kids went out for recess or PE, they really liked having him on the team. And he was he could answer lots of questions in class, and was never a problem. And those 2 students took piano lessons from the music teacher, and she had recital in the spring. And while they were having the recital, the KKK members walked in with their robes on. They didn't have hoods, but they did have robes on, and sat at the back of the auditorium to intimidate those students, I think. And I just thought that was awful, because those kids, I mean, they were doing just what every other kid was doing. And
Yeah.
When my husband and my son and I lived in Knightdale, but my husband was still going to East Carolina, and so he had to finish. But anyway, about a mile from our house on every Saturday night, they burned across, the KKK burned across in a field. And it was kind of scary living that close to that. And but there were a lot of people, I found out later, there were a lot of people that I knew who were actually going to those meetings, and it still bothers me that they were not tolerant.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's very sad, but interesting to hear.
Can I say
Um,
one other thing?
yes,
When
of course.
we moved away the year after that because my husband finished college, so he got a job with Burlington Industries in Rayford, North Carolina. So we moved there. But we read in the paper later that someone put kerosene in the well of the Moses High and his family's well, which it was just awful. It's just things you would not even think
Yeah,
about.
yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, moving on from that. So next I have some questions about what you remember from your early life. So what was the first historical event that you can remember that was really impactful for you?
Well, I remember going to the North Carolina State Fair, which our family did each year. And I can remember someone holding me up because President Truman was at the was at that uh, at the fair and had spoken, but we weren't really close. But I remember my dad holding me up so I could see him because he was the first president that I saw.
Oh, wow. That's really exciting, I'm sure.
And I must have been about 3 or 4 years old, probably 4.
Right. And do you remember why that was impactful for you, or was it just cool to see a president?
It was so much of so much history had happened in my early life because I I was born in February, and then our country entered the Second World War the following December, um, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and I can remember it just. I mean, it just seemed like everybody. There were lots of people that I knew who had gone off to war. My uncles, two of my uncles, and two of um, two other friends that we knew, and maybe more than that. But I just remember going to the movies, and when in the movies, they always had a news section. I mean, we didn't have TV at the time, but they had the news, and they would show the troops. Actually, the correspondents had taken pictures, and they would show the troops in battle or when they would leave, and and it was just a matter of fact. My dad used to say that because if a plane went over our house, that my sister and I, when we were small, we were like 2 and 3 years old, and we would get down on the ground and cover our heads because we thought those planes were going to bomb us, like we had seen in the newsreels at the movies. And then I remember that I was at my aunt's house one time, and the railroad track was nearby, and she said that I kept her up all night because the trains would come by, and I was up saying troop train," because the troops went by train to different places, and so things like that. It just seemed so. It seemed so near because of the newsreels, but so far away too. It was far away from us. But everybody. Oh, and there were ration our gasoline and sugar and lots of other shoes and things like that were rationed. And I still have some of the ration stamps that they had for me when I was a baby uh, in uh, in my memory box downstairs. So,
That's really crazy. Wow. That's Must be interesting to look back at those stuff.
Well, I don't really remember that happening, but they had to have a book of ration stamps for every person in the family. And even though I was an infant or toddler, they still had to have one for me and for my older sister and all, and then my mom and dad.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. And my next question is going to be, what do you think society's greatest challenge has been in your lifetime?
I think that society's greatest challenge is right now because people are so divided that they can't be tolerant of other people's opinions. And I think that everybody has an opinion or belief of what they think it should be done or how things should be, but they just don't know that you can love a person and still disagree with their beliefs. And so everyone wants to tear down the other person. I mean, not everyone, but lots of people try to tear down a person on social media. And I think that that's the greatest challenge that we don't seem to come together as a country and be loyal.
Right, that's some really good insight. Okay. So, all right. Your next question is going to be who has been your favorite president so far?
I think Obama has been my favorite president. Nobody is perfect in everything that they do, but I really think that as far as his intentions and what he wanted to accomplish, were I think they most aligned with my beliefs.
Okay. Well, that's a very good answer then. All right. Okay, so this is going to be some questions about growing up again. What were your parents' expectations for you as you were growing up? Or how did you feel what those expectations were?
Well, my mother she read to us when we were young, before we started reading for ourselves, and we we had a big book of stories of Pinocchio and Swiss Family Robinson and a lot of other things, and she would read to us at night, and even my daddy would listen and listen to her read the stories to us too. But my dad was not. My mother finished high school, but my dad did not. And when I found out later that he always wore really thick glasses, and I found out later that he didn't get those glasses until he got married, and he never. I found out later that he never really learned to read a lot, but I didn't want to embarrass him, by helping him. And I guess one of my greatest regrets is that I didn't, when I became a teacher, teach him to read. But by then I felt like it would be his that it would embarrass him. He was very, very smart, and he knew enough. He knew a lot about math, and I know that my mother had to help my brother in reading and spelling quite a bit, and I would be I would want some attention, so I would pretend that I didn't know how to do my math, so Dad would help me. When I guess I was in second and third grade or something, or older, I guess, because yeah. But that I remember that, but it helped me bond with him, and he was so smart as far as farming was concerned. He just, but I learned later that my mom kept all the records of how much fertilizer they bought and the seeds and all of that stuff. So she had a notebook of records that she kept, and she would read articles from the newspaper out loud, and I never realized why she read them out loud, but
Right. Yeah.
it was a cooperative. We all worked together.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
And what else? What was I don't remember where I started. What was the original?
What were your expectations for
My
you
dad
when you
always
grew up?
said that every one of us were going to graduate if we had to go across the stage to get with a cane. We were all going to graduate from high school. That was his ambition for us. And they were very proud of me going to college. My teachers were my teachers had a lot to do with that because I didn't learn until I was grown up that my 8th grade teacher told my mother I made the highest grade that she had on my achievement test and all of this. And so and the way I got to go to college, I will tell you, there was an insurance man that came around and collected insurance every quarter from my dad, life insurance payment. And he was talking about his daughter getting the scholarship, the prospective teacher scholarship. And that is how I first heard about that. And my high school English teachers helped me step by step to get the scholarship so that I could go to school. And that's how it.
Well, that's amazing. It sounds like you had a good support system on your way to get there.
I did.
That's good. Right. And were there any expectations that you felt like you had to fight against, some that maybe have been holding you back in some way?
In
your early life, did you have any expectations that didn't really fit with what you wanted to do, or did you really not feel held back at all?
No, I did not. My parents were encouraging me every step of the way. And I mean, from first, my mother went to every PTA meeting, and we had what we call grade mothers. We would have like 2 or 3 mothers in the for each class. There would be 2 or 3 mothers who would come and bring refreshments and do parties. And my mother was always one who would volunteer to drive when we went on a field trip. And even I remember we came to Asheville on a field trip for Beta Club convention, and my mother drove to Asheville, and the boys in my class liked to ride with her because she drove fast. They thought she drove fast, but she was always there. My dad was more of a stay-at-home person, but he was pushing us from the sidelines. He wanted us to do our best.
Right. Okay, well, that's wonderful. And did you feel like your parents' expectations differed a little bit from some of your friends? Like, did you think that they were more tolerant maybe, or?
I I think that some of my friends' parents were older. Um, they were babies in the family, and so they
Right.
had
Yeah.
older brothers and sisters. So I didn't know. I don't think that there was a lot of difference, although not many of my classmates went to college. they but they all got good jobs and were successful, you know, in businesses or in the jobs that they um, chose. So I I'm very have I think the parents wanted the best for them. But
Right. Okay. Well, awesome. And my final question is going to be, is there any advice that you would like to give to younger generations?
I would advise the younger generation to be tolerant of others and the others' beliefs, and and um, to do everything they can to be tolerant, not just tolerant, but um, become friends with people who are of different races, because teaching with some of the people that I taught with has been I've learned a lot from we taught in a tri-racial schools. We had students and teachers who were American Indian, who were Black and white. And if I had not gotten to know the people that I worked with, I mean, it was, I see the people who have more bias against other races are people who have not worked or lived next to or become friends with people who are different races. And it's not just the racial thing, but to be tolerant of others' opinions too.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting me do this interview with you. You've had lots of good answers.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you so much.